He talked about this just minutes ago, but right now at 4:30, Pfizer now has full FDA approval of its COVID vaccine for people 16 and older. But what does that mean for vaccine mandates?
They're going to give a lot of incentive and backing for a lot of institutions and organizations and places of employment to mandate.
And joining us this afternoon to talk more about this and what it means for the workplace is attorney Gary Phelan, a partner at the law firm Mitchell and Sheahan, based in Stratford. Gary, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mark.
I guess the question that everybody wants to know right now, is it even legal for companies to require an employee to be vaccinated?
Yes, to the extent there's any restrictions, an employer may or should give the individual a right to request a medical authorization or exception for a sincerely held religious belief. Now, there's another track of mandatory vaccines that also allow for a COVID test once or twice a week, but it's completely legal.
So in other words, if your employer told you today, okay, you've got to go get a shot and you have until the end of September to get both shots, take it or leave it, your only option is to leave or see a doctor and get some kind of written paperwork that you can then give to your employer?
That's correct. And again, it's going to be up to the employer to evaluate what the request for the exemption is. But by and large, courts, there have been legal challenges to mandatory vaccines. Essentially, they've all been unsuccessful. And now with the FDA approving the Pfizer vaccine, giving full approval, I think you're going to start to see that's really going to be a catalyst for more and more employers implementing mandatory vaccine policies.
Can you get fired if you don't do this? Can they just obviously terminate your employment for no reason other than the vaccine?
That's correct. I mean, like any other policy, if an employee chooses not to follow it, then the employer has a business related to terminate them. It's not like a discrimination case where you have protected categories. Choosing not to get a vaccine is not a protected category.
It's interesting. I was reading something today talking about unemployment from a perspective of if you do lose your job because you don't get the vaccine, would you then qualify for unemployment? And there's also talk about maybe even a workman's comp claim if you have some kind of side effect from the vaccine. I mean, this is opening up kind of a whole new world.
That's correct. I think, but on both of those, we'll have to wait and see what transpires over the next weeks and months. I think someone has a good argument that if they don't get choose not to get the vaccine, that they are entitled to unemployment. The Department of Labor has not issued any guidance on that yet. But if somebody were to have some sort of significant side effect or injury as a result of getting the vaccine, if they got the vaccine voluntarily, they wouldn't have any type of workers' compensation claim. But I think if they did it subject to a mandatory requirement by the employer, they would have a workers' compensation claim.
Well, it's interesting, and we certainly appreciate your input. Attorney Gary Phelan, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Good to see you again.
And thank you, Mark.